Flight is super cool. The thought of being suspended in midair and seeing things as if you're the tallest person around is kind of fascinating. I'm Asian, so I know a thing or two about being vertically challenged. But you don't want to hear me drone on. Or do you? DROCON sent over their Navigator U31W, an adorable entry-level drone coming in at 85 grams, featuring a 720p camera at 30 megabits per second, 1-button takeoff and landing, 3-speed settings, headless mode for easier navigation, and warnings for low battery and for when it strays too far from home. There's also a VR mode that I didn't take advantage of, seeing as my only VR headset is literally cardboard. It's got these little rubber stubs for feet so you don't damage or scratch surfaces if you're coming in too hot, and these plastic propeller guards that kind of work. More on that later. The included 350 mAh battery takes about an hour to charge and, in my usage, lasted about 5 minutes, while both flying and recording. The drone can be flown through either the included controller or your phone app or both. The Flying C app in the Google Play Store or Apple Store is functional and easy to use. Pretty fly for a Wi-Fi. It's not mine, but damn it, it's funny. The app is required if you want to record through the drone's camera and onto the included 4GB microSD card, but optional if your only interest is flying around and making your neighbors uncomfortable. Additionally, you can operate the drone through the app only and leave the fat controller at home. You can fly it via the virtual joystick or use your phone's built-in gyroscope for flight, but my personal preference is to play with the actual rigid stick. The virtual stuff doesn't offer the same kind of pleasure you'd get from the erect member. That was a little forced. Speaking of which, the controller is fairly large, requiring 4 AA batteries for operation, but comfortable enough to hold and not too much heavier than I would expect. Hold the phone, Steven. You said the drone can be controlled via app, or controller, or both. Do you have to dual wield or what? The controller's got a little pull-out arm at the top for holding your phone, if you want to use both control methods at once. Setting up for flight is easy as fly. Place the drone on a flat surface, turn the drone on by holding the power button down for about a second, then turn on the controller and press down on the left joystick to pair. If you're using the phone, go through your device's Wi-Fi and locate the drone through there. Then open the app and you'll be ready to fly. Do note that the max Wi-Fi range is about 20 to 30 meters, and there will be a notification sound if you get a little too ambitious with your distance. Once you're all paired up, tilt the right stick towards the bottom right to calibrate the drone, and then tilt both sticks at a 45-degree angle downwards and inwards to start your engines. From there, you can either take advantage of the 1-button takeoff or rub up on that left stick to raise your donger. The left stick will control the drone's vertical position as well as point its nose left and right, while the right stick will allow for movement in the cardinal directions. As a bumbling idiot with poor eyesight, bad hand-eye coordination, and a tendency to forget what's going on in a moment's notice, flying the drone was... What? Flying the drone was not terrible, as long as I had enough open space. I tried flying it in my room for the first time, and that ended in disaster. Aside from a few scratches and bumps due to my own fat-headedness, the little Navigator still works fine. But, just in case you really pwn your drone, DROCON does include 4 spare propellers in the box, along with the necessary tools to swap them out. 1-button takeoff worked wonderfully, and if you don't touch anything, the drone maintains its elevation, though I can't promise that means it'll stay still. In the unlikely event that you are somehow a worse pilot than I, and your drone tries to sneak away from you, there is a trim function, not for SSDs, that will help in keeping it under control, though I never managed to get it working so that the drone stayed perfectly still. I also tried headless mode, which proved to be fairly useful when the drone was much farther away. Those of you who are directionally challenged would greatly appreciate this, like me. As for picture and video, it's about what you'd expect out of a $90 to $100 drone sporting a 720p camera. There is no stabilization, so while the video is acceptably smooth in normal flying conditions, on a windy day, the thing doesn't handle particularly well given its light weight. But you'd still get shots that you normally wouldn't be able to, short of hopping on a pair of hilariously tall stilts. Despite the fairly generous amount of features built into this thing, it's not all smooth sailing. Fluid flying? As I mentioned earlier, the drone likes to travel in one direction or another without any influence from the user. It's my understanding that this happens with most drones that don't have GPS, but it's important to mention if, against my recommendation, you try to fly it indoors. You can compensate for this with the trim button on the controller, but it never behaved perfectly for me. To be honest with you, that could almost definitely, certainly, probably be user error. And speaking of user error, those propeller guards were really put to the test in my time reviewing this. Being a fairly new drone user, I crashed. A lot. Marks on the guards made it apparent that the propellers did brush into them, so it would have been nice if they were a little more rigid to handle my rough play. But I suppose the little dings beat having no protection at all. More on the propellers, it'd be kind of nice if the drone was a little bit taller. The propellers being further from the ground will make me feel significantly better about operating it around grassy areas. Regarding the controller, this thing is fat. It kind of has to be to accommodate the phone arm, but the arm is just big enough for my Samsung Galaxy Note 4. Now the Note 4 is a fairly large device, so it's not too surprising that the tiny little thing could hardly handle the girth. But if you're sporting a phone any larger than that, you may find yourself hanging a little limp. Speaking of a little limp, insertion of the microSD card into the drone's backdoor is easy enough, but getting it out is a whole other story. Whole other story. The battery is nothing to write home about. Fortunately, you probably won't need to, since you're not flying very far with this thing anyway. Recording and flight time is about 5 minutes on a single charge, and around 7 if you're flying only. But to be fair, I feel like I'm the last person to be criticizing anything for its endurance. That hurts. Additionally, the controller nags more than your mother on garbage day when the battery capacity drops to about 15%, reminding you to either charge the battery or smother the controller with a pillow. You can usually find the drone for around $100 US, sometimes as low as 90 on certain days, but I do recommend throwing another battery into the cart with it. Despite my criticisms, the price isn't too shabby in my opinion, especially given that it can be controlled via phone app and your initial flight is made relatively easy. Video quality is competitive with other camera drones at this price point, and flying is smooth on a mild day. Drones are really starting to take off among the average consumer, and if you're looking for a good place to start, this one may very well be the right choice for you. And so that's all I have to say about that. Like, dislike, comment, subscribe, share, leave me questions if you've got them. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven, and I am ALittleDIMM. Fly safe. That does not feel the same as bye-bye. Oh boy, that was awkward. Bye-bye. All I want for Christmas is a microphone that can block out that much noise. Flight is super cool. I couldn't figure out where I wanted to focus my eyes. 3-speed settings, headless mode for easier navigation. Well, hold the phones. Hold on. Hold the phone, Steven. You said the drone can be controlled. Do you have to dual wield, or what? Wait. Hold that thought. Stubbed my toe. Hold the phone, Steven. You said the drone setting up for flight is easy as fly. Please, I'm still holding the phone. Or rub up on that left stick to raise your donger. I'm gonna be 12 years old forever. As a bumbling idiot with poor eyesight, bad hand-eye coordination, and a tendency As a bumbling idiot with poor eyesight, bad hand-eye coordination, and a tendency to forget what's going on oh, man. I don't even know how that fell. It is really... It's relevant. No. Get away. Come on, go somewhere else.